most of the questions we're just going to take as people come in through the live feed. So I'm going to start the feed just so our neighbors and our voters can log in.
I'm so impressed that that you know how to do all that stuff and make this show up there, and I guess I could do it if I wanted to sit down and try to figure it out, but I have not done that.
You haven't invested that time, see, but I had to take my whole business to Zoom because when we were not essential service, this was about the only way I could talk to my buyers and sellers and then do my educating of agents that I do around the country. So I'm grateful for it, but I'm over it right now. But with something like this, I mean, you think about how many voters typically show up for a town hall or a forum, and it's the loyal few. You rarely get a hold of the average normal neighbor who doesn't have time because they're at ball practice. And so hopefully we will hear from all those folks.
Well, I hope so. And unfortunately, when you have an open forum in public, many times it's each candidate brings their group of supporters, and so you're only talking to the people that have already made up their minds.
Exactly, and I think that's been really interesting to me with the school board people that have reached out. They were telling me they've never paid attention before. Hey, Kevin. And they didn't know who the candidates were, but they realized they should have been paying attention. So maybe we'll have a more educated county voter with just having a different way to experience it. So this is a good thing, way to use technology.
That will be wonderful.
Kevin, thank you for joining me tonight. I was just telling Steve, and I hadn't even told Barbara yet, we wound up with several thousand views on the school board candidate forum that I did. And I'm hoping that we get a lot of that audience tonight. So our voters will be able to ask y'all questions. I'm just going to take questions. I got my Google Doc over here so I can see them as they come in. We're live on YouTube and we are live on Facebook. And hello, friends and neighbors and taxpayers. My only request is that if you are not in Cabarrus County, please don't ask your questions because this is the county commissioner forum for Cabarrus County, but you're welcome to watch, observe, and then do the same thing wherever you live, because this is what we should all be doing, is getting to know our candidates for public office. And Thomas Hill is officially 1 minute late, but I'm going to go ahead and start because y'all were on time. So if you haven't met me before, I'm Leigh Brown. I grew up in Cabarrus County. My family, we go way back, and we are, I guess back to the 1700s in Cabarrus County. We've been here forever. And so we're also conduct business. I'm a realtor. So in trying to find out who I should vote for, I felt like it was a great opportunity to share with everybody else that I know in the county and their friends who y'all are, so that they can all make a good educated decision, since we do have 2 seats open on the Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners. So the questions I'm going to take, friends, as y'all are watching tonight, let me know what questions you have. My team is watching your questions and feeding it through to me so I can watch it in one document. Welcome on YouTube. Welcome on Facebook. Again, we're Cabarrus County, North Carolina. That's Concord, Kannapolis, Harrisburg, Mount Pleasant, Midland, and of course our regular county people. So we're all over the place, but I'm glad y'all are here. Ground rules. Nobody out there in comment world, please don't troll and say ugly things, because until you have run for office, you do not know what it's like to take arrows from strangers. And so we're not going to be ugly. We're going to be appreciative that these are the folks who are willing to serve our county in this capacity and have put their name in the hat. So I appreciate y'all for being willing to serve all of us. And I'm excited to hear what you have to say and answers to questions. And we'll welcome Thomas Hill, who was supposed to be with us and has not arrived yet. There is a 5th candidate, and she never responded to an email or a phone call. So I'll just hope that she is well and healthy and just didn't check messages. So with that being said, can you guys take about 30 seconds and tell us your name, where you live, and really, really, really briefly, because I'll mute you if you go too long, tell us why you decided to run for county commission in our county and why you want to serve in this way. Kevin, I'm going to start with you because you're where you are in my Hollywood Squares.
Okay, certainly. My name is Kevin Vincent, and I want to represent you as a Cabarrus County Commissioner. And on November 3rd, I'd like your vote. I'm born and raised North Carolinian. I'm a husband of 12 years and a father of 3 children. And I have my master's in public administration. I have been a information technology risk professional for the past 13 years. I am running simply put because it's important. Local government is very important to me. I think that, even so much so that I'm a master's in public administration, and because I have just a general interest in local government, and I understand the values and how your leadership there is the benefit of how people end up living their lives.
Thank you. Barbara.
Hey, my name is Barbara Strang. I am a longtime resident of Cabarrus County. I've lived here about 24 years now. And I decided to run because, the people of Cabarrus County and all the municipalities, they kind of need a voice. They need somebody to get a hold of, being able to put their message forth. Sometimes we get that and sometimes we don't. So I just want to be available to the citizens. I see a lot of growth, a lot of possibility, a lot of potential in the county. And I think that's where my expertise, since I've been in the county for so long and involved in different events, community organizations, without that, I think that gives me a good foundation to build from and continue those relationships even stronger and work in unity with the county and the municipalities going forward.
And Steve.
Okay, I'm Steve Morris. I'm a lifelong resident of Cabarrus County. I grew up in Kannapolis. I currently live in Concord. I operate my business in Kannapolis, so I'm back and forth across the county all the time. I initially ran for county commission and was elected in 2012, was reelected in 2016. I've served as chairman of the board since 2014. One of my primary interests in running initially was jobs and economic development. I feel like we've been very successful in that regard. Over the years that I've been county commissioner, we've increased investment to our tax base from new companies by over $800 million and created in excess of 4,000 jobs during that time period. And so I'm very proud of that. The thing that you learn once you're elected is that county commission is a very broad area. So we're responsible for a great many other things that are equally as important. Perhaps we'll get into some of those during the forum. Thank you.
Well, thank you. So again, thanks to all of you for putting your name in the hat and being willing to serve in this capacity, and for showing up tonight so that all of these people on the internet can meet you. So I'm going to start with a direction Steve started us in, but Kevin, you're going to get to start again because I've got a little square here and that's what I get to do. So I'd like to know if you have spent any research time in preparing for this role. Have you talked to our county manager and learned about the budget process? How deeply have you done a dive into the kind of role you've signed up for?
Sure, yeah. So initially, when I signed up for the role, maybe during the primary time, I did have a conversation with Mike Downs, and I've had conversations with assistant county manager as well, Rodney, and having, taking notes and understanding how we are ahead of where we initially were thinking we're going to be from the COVID-19 pandemic. And so, yes, I've done my research. I've built relationships and continue to build relationships. And so, yes, I feel like I've been preparing myself in anticipation of winning.
Thank you. Barbara, do you have any comments on research and budget and county managers?
Sure. I have read the proposed the most recent budget that we are working under. I have spent a lot of time talking to the commissioners, school board, finding out where their needs are, what their budgeting requests are, how they connect together, the school board as well as the commission. I have also talked to the sheriff's department about some of their concerns going forward. I have not had the opportunity to meet with Mike Downs yet. We played a little bit of a tag thing going on there, and it's a little hard sometimes to connect. But, I've talked to the sheriff, I've talked to some of the municipalities, done a lot of research on some of the finance ends of it, as far as what's currently on the budget and where it's, the foreseeable future, the predicted budget going forward. So I feel I'm pretty prepared for what this role brings.
Awesome. Thank you. Steve, I'm going to shift that question on you a little bit because obviously you're in the role now. What would you say the public should know about the budget process that was maybe a surprise to you when you first got elected?
Well, I think most people would be surprised at the amount of time and work that goes into the budget. That process usually begins in January when we have our retreat for our commissioners, where we begin to discuss our priorities for the year, the things that we hope to accomplish, and do some goal setting. Then staff begins their process with all the departments and department heads, where they make their request and make us aware of the things that they think are important. They go through individual meetings throughout January and February into March, making their presentations. Then it goes back to senior staff, and they determine and the finance department. It's a pretty exhaustive process. So anything that finally makes it to that proposed budget that then that we expose to the public, where we have usually we have 3 budget workshops where we invite the public to come in and participate in the discussion about the things that we think are important. And so it's that back and forth that involves many opportunities for public input along the way. It is a challenging process. I mean, obviously, you're spending the taxpayers' money. So setting those priorities, there are too many things that we think are really important, and we know that we can't accomplish all of them. So we go through a pretty exhaustive process of trying to pare those down to the items that are realistic. And we look at ways that we can save money and go through that process. Also, was mentioned earlier, the schools. The schools represent almost 50% of the county's budget. So we participate in their budget process. We have staff representation as well as a commissioner that participates in their budget deliberations to see how that all interfaces. And then we have all the other areas. We have our human services department. We have our parks and active living department, our senior center. We have our library system and our EMS folks. The list goes on. So the responsibilities are very broad. So I feel good about that budget process, that we offer as many opportunities as possible for the public to participate and have and express their opinions in that as well.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So Barbara, I'm going to flip to you to answer a more specific question along the lines of finances. There's a lot of conversation in the county from our educators about teacher supplements. So give us some insights as to what you think about the current teacher supplement conversation, what you know about its history, how they're funded, and what you'd like to see happen if you're elected as a commissioner.
I think, I've done a lot of research on supplements, talked to several teachers, been involved with some of these forums too, and it's been brought up multiple times. And I think, we are kind of a lot lower than some of our sister counties. And, currently they are receiving I think it was a 1% this past year, 50% from the county, 50% from the actual school budget. And I'd like to see that going forward. I think one forum, I think Steve and you were both at it. I think we were all at it. They asked for 14%. We know, looking at the budget and the needs of the county, that's not really an amount we can get to that quickly. That's going to take some time. That's going to take some work. And I think it is important that we reward our teachers and we continue to support our teachers in every avenue that we can. They are there with our children daily, day in and day out, and they do need our support and help. So I'm all for continuing the supplements. If there's a possibility that we can increase it more than 1% between the county budget and the school budget, great. But I mean, we've got to look at the fine line, the bottom line on that.
Thank you. Kevin?
Sure. Yes.
Same question.
Yes, certainly. I'm in support of the teacher supplemental pay. I think it's important to make sure that we provide some supplemental pay for our teachers so that they don't necessarily have to go and get a part-time job. And I have 3 children myself, and so I would not want my 3rd grade teacher having to go out and get another job just to make ends meet, if you will. And so I think it's so important to continue to champion the idea of increasing teacher supplemental pay. And considering the fact that, Cabarrus County school system is one of, I think, top 2 of our largest employers. And so I think it's important for you to, take care of your employees. So I do understand as well that we have to ensure that we allocate the proper funds. And so I understand that process, that you can't just, it's not just an open checkbook where you can just say, hey, give you 20% of supplemental pay. But I definitely will be in support of increasing that on a continual basis, because we don't want to continue to see what we have seen, and me talking to other teachers wherein they work for a long period of time in Cabarrus County, and then they move and close to retirement, move to another county, sister county and or neighboring county, and to get their higher pay so that they can, have a better situation in retirement. So we want to foster that, some type of love and respect for our teachers who take care of our children on a daily basis.
So when you were doing your research with the county, did you spot any ways in the budget that might be possible? Have you done that kind of a deep dive at this point?
No, not at this point. Yeah, I'll wait until I get elected and get that information.
I'm just asking if you're a big nerd or a medium nerd. So that would be the answer to that question.
I'm a big nerd, but COVID kind of, prevented a little bit of that as well.
Thank you. Steve, any comments on the supplements?
Well, I think that most people realize that the salaries of our teachers are set and paid by the state of North Carolina. The supplements are what we do locally. There's a tremendous range throughout the state as to what individual counties do for teachers. I'm proud of the increases that we've been able to make. When I first got on the board in 2012, I think it was probably 2013, I made a motion to increase the supplements by 2% because they had been stagnant for a number of years. That motion failed. And I think we came up with some lesser number, but since that time, since 2014, we have increased the supplement every year. And for the past 2 years, the school board has matched what we have done each of those years. So we've been able to make a lot of progress. I think that if we are not at the state average now, we are very close. That is a moving target though, because it continues to increase as well. The big disadvantage that we have, and I think Kevin kind of captured in what he was talking about, by having Charlotte-Mecklenburg as a neighboring community, we will probably never reach the level of supplement in Cabarrus County that they pay in Charlotte-Mecklenburg. And the reason for that is the same reason that we have such tremendous growth in our school system in Cabarrus County. Unfortunately, Charlotte-Mecklenburg has to pay that in order to lure talent into their system. And certainly that's what we try to do as well. But that is such a challenge. I hear many teachers, well, we have quite a few teachers in our school system here that have come from Charlotte-Mecklenburg. So that makes it kind of tough if we're going to be compared with them. But it is important. It does make our teachers feel valued. It helps our administration in the school system to secure talent and to fill those positions. So I'm very, very much in favor of doing what we can. I think, can't quote me on this one, but 0.5% increase in the teacher supplement is something over $2 million for us. And so that would be annually, every year going forward. So that compounds as it increases. So you're not talking about an insignificant amount of money.
All right, so since we're talking about money, and you've mentioned that two of the big drivers in the budget are the schools and also the public safety and police. Whoever wants to go first on this one can jump in. This is from a member of the community. There's a lot of conversation about defunding the police. Of course, our county would be talking about this in regard to the sheriff's department. What are your thoughts on defunding or reducing funding to the sheriff's department, as well as what would you do to increase or decrease the role of police and police officers and sheriff's deputies in the schools in the role of school resource officers? That's a big, giant question. So basically, it's your thoughts on public safety, funding for our officers and in the community and in the schools. Whoever wants to go first, go with it.
I guess I'll jump in. I'll start. I'm a big fan of their sheriff's department as well as all the municipal police departments. I'm not in favor of defunding them. They are a staple in our community. They keep us safe. They do a lot more than people realize. They're not just patrolling the streets. They're doing property checks. They're doing welfare checks. They're checking, on some of our elderly people that can't get out. They're really out doing things in the community. And in some of those instances, they become mentors to some of our children, whether it's in the school or on the streets. They do a lot of neighborhood policing. I mean, we see a lot of our officers on the streets talking to people. They have no problem stopping and talking to you, and they're all very friendly. So I think, keeping that sound mind of security in Cabarrus County is definitely necessary. As far as the SROs within schools, no, I'm not in favor of removing them. And there's a couple factors, because some people look at, they're in our schools protecting our children. They serve a couple different roles. They're there if there's an outside threat. They're there when a mom or dad, a non-custodial mom or dad, show up and try to grab their kid and they're not allowed to. They're there. They're also there. They also teach like DARE and different programs within the school to educate our children and become great mentors. I mean, I have two of my son's high school friends still talk to their SROs, still to this day, on a daily basis, if not monthly, and go out to lunch and go to dinner. I mean, they really set a great role model within our school. And in some of those instances, when there's trouble at home or trouble, the child hasn't eaten, sometimes the police officers are a little bit more adept to realize that there's a problem with that particular child or a home situation, and they can check on that. So it's that. And if there is a problem in the schools, between children, of course, we have some roughhousing going on and things like that, they're there as the first point of de-escalation. I don't think any of our teachers within the schools, are physically equipped. I know I'm not ready to take on a 6'4" senior at any high school. That's how big my son is. So, I mean, they are there. They're there to protect our children. They're there to mentor our children, and they need to stay in the schools. Now, with that said, I think we also need to expand the mental health within our schools and in the county. Right now, some people don't realize it, but our sheriff's department transports our, people that need medical assistance or mental assistance up into Wake Forest and Raleigh and in different areas far away. There's nowhere really close by. So they are transporting some of our folks back and forth. I would like to see where we could get a mental health facility here closer in town in Cabarrus County to serve that, because that's a cost-cutting thing. I mean, you think about it, we have to send an officer down the road. It's fuel, it's wear and tear, it's time. If we had somewhere here in the county, that would be a huge proponent for us. And I think it's a big push that we need to go forward with it at some point and really work on that. I mean, we can't use the auxiliary portion of the jail because there are state guidelines where they can't be connected to the jail. And I understand that, but I think, even if you sistered with a neighboring county, whether it's Rowan or Mecklenburg, to have that facility closer to home for all of us, because all those counties are struggling the same way our way. So that's a way to look at the budget to ensure that we don't lose our SROs, we don't lose our sheriff's department. And we have a brand new, beautiful courthouse being built, and we need to staff that as well. Those are things that have to be staffed. You can't just leave that unattended by some kind of law enforcement presence. We need to work to continue, and I will be the first one to say I'm the fighter of the police. I'm a true blue friend. I've worked with them closely over the years in my prior profession, and worked as a guardian ad litem. So I see what they do a lot more than, the average citizen may think. They think they're out there just pulling them over for speeding, but they're not. They're there, and they need to remain in our community.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Sure, I'll go. So, no, I don't think you hold defund police slogan. I don't think that that's something that I would be interested in doing either. I think I'm all about the sheriff protecting our citizens for certain. And then in addition to that, school resource officers are hugely important as well. My daughter goes to a public school here in Cabarrus County, and she comes home and tells me stories about her school resource officer all the time. So yeah, I think that, and as Barbara said, they're there as a point of de-escalation. And to your point, Leigh, I am kind of a big nerd. When I was a little kid, I was a safety patrol, and I remember my school resource officer kind of telling me the ropes of like, hey, tell them to stop here, hold the sign here. And I felt so empowered by him and all the things that he helped me to, I guess, learn in general from a law enforcement as a child at school. So yes, I think school resource officers have a place, and I'm not for defunding the sheriff's office either. But again, I think mental health, one of my platform items is to help to fight to remove the stigma of mental health, because I think no different from getting your physical or getting your teeth cleaned, it's also equally important to get mental health checks as well. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're, that's anything wrong with you, it's because everybody has things that they can work on, well, increasing their presence in schools as well. I think that is hugely important. If we could somehow figure out a way to have licensed professionals to talk to students at schools. I visited the Opportunity House, and I was talking to Mr. Brown there, and it was shocking to me when he was telling me that, what happens is some of the people come from the sheriff's office, and they literally drop them off at Opportunity House with their sandals on. And then he proceeded to tell me that about 80% of the people there, have some mental health challenges. 80% of the people there. So it goes to what Barbara was saying, and I'm sure Steve will as well, is that mental health is a big umbrella. And there's so many things that trickle down from underneath that I believe we have to fix, especially coming out of COVID-19, this pandemic. So again, no to defunding of the sheriff's office. And yes, I do believe that school resource officers are necessary.
Thank you. Steve?
Well, I am in no way in support of defunding law enforcement in Cabarrus County. I have bragged frequently about the fact that Cabarrus County is one of the counties, and not every county in the state has a school resource officer in every school in the county. I think as we've seen issues all across the country, we have not experienced those here in Cabarrus County. I think that's one of the reasons why, because our children in the school system form very positive relationships and positive opinions of law enforcement by the exposure that they receive from our school resource officers. And I think that benefits them throughout their life. They view them as a friend and a resource. And I think that's invaluable. The mental health aspect is certainly a serious thing. We have instigated a mental health task force here in Cabarrus County that has been meeting for about 2.5 to 3 years now. It's probably one of the most comprehensive groups in the county. We have representatives from all of the municipalities, all of the law enforcement agencies, the judicial system, both of the school systems, and our health alliance from the Mental Health Association. So it has very broad representation, and those folks are doing excellent work in going forward on some of the things that we've been talking about, including mental health facilities here in Cabarrus County, a crisis assistance center where folks in crisis will have somewhere to turn rather than going to the jail or to the emergency department at the hospital. We have instituted the Stepping Up program in our Cabarrus County Jail, so that every inmate that comes into the jail is interviewed and evaluated on their mental health needs. We have 2 caseworkers there, one who does that evaluation and determines if there is a problem, sets up appointments for them with professionals that they can see when they leave the jail. Once we realized that people were having difficulty making those appointments because of transportation needs, that's when we instituted the second position to help follow through and make sure that those folks get the help that they need. That benefits us in multiple ways. Number one, it decreases the recidivism in our jail. Those folks that are frequent flyers that are in on a regular basis, hopefully we get them the assistance that prevents them from coming back. That saves the taxpayers money, and it makes that person's life much, much better. So it's a win-win situation for all of us. And all of that stems through our law enforcement. So, you know, the money that we spend with our law enforcement agencies is money well spent. Our current sheriff has done an excellent job of recruiting and filling all open positions that we have in our sheriff's department. So that is operating extremely well, and hopefully our Board of Commissioners will continue to support them to enable that.
All right, thank you. So let's change gears and talk about the revenue. And we're talking about economic development, jobs, and what our county is currently facing. We have a question here. Knowing that the county is likely going to face a revenue shortfall with the shutdowns due to COVID situations, with lower hospitality dollars coming in, lower food and beverage taxes, all the different monies that feed the county, is there a plan that you have to make up that shortfall that would not fall on the backs of homeowners in the form of property tax increases?
So I guess I'll start on this one. I don't necessarily have a plan written out, but certainly I think it's important to have economic development being a key proponent to the progress of Cabarrus County. We focus on small businesses as well, and I don't know, if I'm not mistaken, there's an application out there that that can be, people can go in and apply for, based on when I was talking to the assistant county manager, that people can apply for that to get some help from a small business perspective. So focusing on small businesses, focusing on how we can, I guess, rethink how we kind of do business in a sense. COVID-19, you understand, I'm sure that, at least when I was talking to the county manager, that he was assuming that about 35 to 40% of the government employees likely would remain back home, and have the ability to work home. And I think that's one thing that this pandemic has shown us, that we can be successful and can work well while being at home. So, there's cost savings there. But I think what's most really important is the focus on small business. And then lastly, I think it'd be important to try to bolster our community colleges and high schools. In my mind, I think that it would be good if we had some type of, plan wherein we could connect with different businesses. And so, for instance, I've visited other schools, and they have a plan wherein they have a company that has a connection, and then they have a manufacturing or some type of plant or whatever in the back. And so that whoever is wherein if college is not your option or not something that you're interested in doing, they allow you to have internships where you can go in and work for that company throughout the summer. And at the same time, have an opportunity to do some of that work at the school. So I think that affords an opportunity for high school students or whomever else to be able to be able to make a livable wage and kind of bolster that economy from a realistic standpoint, wherein they could leave their high school and say, you know what, college isn't for me. I want to go and work at that place I did an internship the last 2 years. I've seen it, and I think that's a good idea as well. So that's my thoughts on that.
Thank you. Barbara or Steve?
I'll be happy to go. I don't think any of us has a giant crystal ball on how to solve the world, but there's a couple things. Kevin touched about small businesses, and I know the county and the municipalities are working on a innovation center to help those small businesses here locally, to get them to build relationships and what they can do to enhance and be successful as a small business owner. We have lost some small businesses here in town, and that breaks my heart. And, a lot of them have applied for the SBA loans or received PPP or done everything they possibly could to maintain those. But COVID, unfortunately, has really thrown us a monkey wrench, and they've worked through a lot of that. I've talked to a lot of the small business owners, and they are doing everything they can to maintain what they have to do, even if they've unfortunately lost half their staff. But they want to be able to build back up and build back stronger than ever. And I think our community needs to rally around them to ensure that. And with that comes, they're the livelihood of our community. And with those small businesses prospering, it comes growth, more economic development. And I would like to see, when some of these industries are proposing to come into Cabarrus County and looking to come down here to Cabarrus County or wherever they're coming from, I think one important thing is have on-the-job training, whether it's a technical, some kind of technical training to boost those people that don't have a high school education, or do have a high school education, that don't have a college education, and they can provide some training. And I think that's one thing, I would like to work with some of these businesses that are proposing to come here and see what kind of plans they have. I want to make sure that our residents have a livable wage. In some instances, I like to see above the minimum, the livable wage, and those are opportunities that I think we can really thrive and really boost our economic development by working with incoming corporations and companies. Sure, Amazon is a great asset to the county. And I think we need to continue to build those relationships. And if we paired with one of those large companies like Amazon or something and built some kind of technical training, some people that they bring them in to do the packaging and shipping and all that kind of stuff. But I think if we taught them some other skills, whether it's some managing a small team within that, those are things that our folks can move forward into a bigger career within, Amazon or any other company. And I think those are things we need to focus on. And I think as a whole, we'll come out of this better and stronger if we just, continue to work hard, continue to support our small businesses. I visited a lot of small businesses during the shutdown and really spent some time, helped out at one local restaurant. They were short staffed. I said, well, here, I'll run it out to the car. I'm staying in here. So, just those little relationships you have. And I think we as citizens have to be the biggest cheerleaders for those folks and applaud them for all they've done. And the growth will come. And we're working on that. I know, Steve and the current commissioners have done a great job bringing some businesses in here. And I think we can really get some great new businesses coming in and really bolster that.
Thank you. Steve?
Of course, the impact from the COVID situation has been tremendous to our business community. I think amongst those hardest hit have been our hospitality and tourism segments. Our Convention and Visitors Bureau, of course, is the recipient of revenues of our occupancy tax. They have cut tremendously their staff and their activities until that ramps back up. The biggest impact to the county and the municipalities would be the sales tax revenue. We have been pleasantly surprised that those revenues are coming in higher than we anticipated they would when we adjusted them for the shutdown. So that is one of the bright spots. As far as our business community, we have attempted to assist them in every way that we can through our CARES funds that the county has had an opportunity to deal with. We currently have a grant program for nonprofits who are helping out a lot of these folks that have been displaced employment-wise during this process. So that is underway right now. So we think we'll have positive results from that. The Innovation Center that was mentioned earlier and is going to be a great tool for entrepreneurs in the community as well as our existing businesses. Over the years that when we bring in larger new companies into the community, and sometimes those involve incentives that we negotiate with them. A lot of times small business says, well, when do I get my incentive? And my answer to that question is, as a business owner, every time we bring a new company into Cabarrus County that provides jobs for our citizens, so they can they can come and see a movie, they can come and buy popcorn, they can go and buy a home, and they have that income to spend in our community. That's an incentive that every business receives. And I think that with our Innovation Center, where we'll have our Economic Development Corporation, our Community College Small Business Center, the Chamber of Commerce, a number of other organizations together in one location, that will be a tremendous resource for our small business. As far as training for people in our community that both Barbara and Kevin mentioned, it's been my pleasure to serve on the Board of Trustees of the Rowan Cabarrus Community College for a number of years. And they have tremendous tailored training programs for new companies that come into our community. If we recruit a new company, they come in, then the community college will meet with representatives from that company. They will tailor a training program to meet the needs of their workers. During the past year, we have just completed, the county funded the advanced manufacturing training facility that's part of the community college on the campus, North Carolina Research Campus in Kannapolis. And that space is designed for that purpose, to be adaptable for multiple industries so that they can train those folks. Kevin had mentioned some of the folks that maybe not or may not be ready for college or may not be college material. The community college has done a tremendous job with, and just a couple examples, their welding program that they have in conjunction with A.L. Brown High School in Kannapolis has been tremendously successful. Most every student that goes through that program ends up with multiple job offers before they finish the program. When I toured the high-tech machine shop training that the community college does, the instructor there told me that every student in his class already has a job just as soon as they complete the program. So there's a tremendous demand out there, and certainly, Leigh, in the industry that you're in, you hear it from builders all the time. They're looking for trained, qualified folks in their industry. So we have a lot of opportunities here, and to make those available to the youth in our community is extremely important for all of us.
Thank you. So the follow-up question to this is coming from a Harrisburg resident, of course. So with the growth in Cabarrus County and the work to continue encouraging employers to come here, this is a desirable place to relocate. However, our infrastructure does not seem prepared for the influx of people when it comes to schools and roads. What changes to the existing plan do you propose so that Cabarrus County can catch up to and get ahead of the growth curve?
That's a very tough question. I'll take that one first. Growth is tremendous in Cabarrus County. Our school system has grown. I think this year, and because of the COVID situation, is the first year in memory that our school system has not grown by a significant number of children. Usually it's is between 500 or more students up to 1,000 students per year, which that if and in those years that equates to a new school every single year. And that's what we have been doing for the past number of years. We have 2 brand new schools open this fall, a new elementary school in Harrisburg, and then our new West Cabarrus High School. And we've already begun construction on a new middle school on Cochran Road and Roberta Road. So that is a very expensive proposition to keep up with that. So far, we've done fairly well at it, but it is a challenge. And the thing that I say most frequently to folks, and I'm sure everybody here's heard me say it before, when you look at the entire state of North Carolina, about 20 out of the 100 counties are prospering and growing. 80 of the 100 counties are fairly stagnant or either losing population. So while we're concerned about building new school facilities, we have counties that are very close to us that are having to figure out which of their schools they're going to close because their school population is decreasing. So if given the choice of dealing with the pains of growth, I would rather do that than deal with the pains of a shrinking population. And that doesn't completely answer the question, because you said, what are you going to do to control it? We are very limited. And that's one of the things that I said earlier about the school system. Everything we do to make our school system and our school facilities better, everything that we do for our teachers to keep good quality teachers makes us even more attractive and brings us more growth. And we hear that all the time. You know, when I talk to people, I say, so what guided your decision to live in Cabarrus County? And I hear very frequently, well, my job was transferred to Charlotte. And when I began to looking around at the school systems, I decided that I'd rather be in Cabarrus County than Mecklenburg County. So the better we make it, the bigger the problem becomes. So I think we've done a good job of keeping up with that growth. And the road piece of it, that's a state of North Carolina issue. And that's one that we've got to work on. And hopefully a couple of other elections will give us an advantage in that area.
Thank you. Barbara or Kevin?
I'll go. As far as the state DOT and the state roads, that is definitely an issue. I've been working over the past couple of years with several people from the state DOT here for local projects, predominantly like Highway 73 and in those areas. I've reached out to them roughly a month ago, probably a month and a half ago, because somebody got a letter in the mail regarding something about it. And right now I've received word that they are all suspended. All the road improvements from the state DOT are suspended for indefinite time period. So we don't know, there's no crystal ball that when they'll be back up and running. But I've seen, certain areas where there are high accidents, high crash scenes, really tough congested areas. Some of the municipalities have worked into their budget process a little bit to reconfigure the particular interstate to alleviate some of that. And that may be something the county might be looking into going forward. I know the intersection at McGill and Poplar Tent, that's the City of Concord one. The City of Concord also has a plan on the future. It's the planning stages to do Poplar Tent and Harris Road, which is a nightmare of an intersection during rush hour. So those types of things, I think in the interim temporarily, that's something, as a commissioner, we need to look at. The schools, that's a tough one. That is a tough one because we don't know. And I think one thing that I would definitely want to look at is the ADM of what students we still have left after this COVID. Because I've talked to numerous parents that have moved their children, whether it's homeschool, charter schools, private schools. We need to see are they re-enrolling in after the COVID? And then that's going to really help us figure out if we need to build another school in the next 2-3 years going forward, or if it's something that we can do a small, I hate to say realignment, but a small realignment to get us back into a line on some of those overpopulated areas, particularly West Cabarrus and Harrisburg. I think those are things looking forward that we really need to look at hard when the new enrollment comes up for next year, and determine, budgeting going forward, how we can utilize those funds a little better. And I think those are some of the examples of the things that I'd like to see going forward. And those are some of the things, I think we need to work on with the municipalities as well. And we can, we all have a great relationship with a lot of municipality, commissioners and townsmen and women. And I think, that's something that those relationships are gold, and we just need to utilize them a little bit better to work on some things together. So like I said, there is no crystal ball, and we've got COVID looming over our head, but those are just some thoughts on my end, and hopefully that answered some of your question.
Thank you.
Yeah, so let's make sure I was off mute, but yeah, so I don't necessarily, as Steve and Barbara mentioned, the roads and things, that's more of a state government thing. But I do think that growth is a huge problem. Well, yeah, I guess it is a problem. But yeah, growth. But I don't think it's going to slow down. I mean, considering Concord has been stated as being the 24th best city in America to live in. Charlotte is continually growing. I don't see it slowing down at all. So that's one of those things that's very hard from a school perspective and a traffic perspective, because people are coming in droves to get the lower pay and taxes in comparison to Mecklenburg, as well as the good school system. So that's one of those things where I would like to really dig into it. I'm a research type person, so I like to dig into the data and figure out what ways could we really make some change, and how we can affect some change so that it can make things a little bit better. And that goes to what Barbara was saying as well, talking to the leaders within municipalities. And one of those things that I want to do or plan to do is start a council of individuals within every corner of Cabarrus County, so I can start to understand and learn what things bother them, so once you have a conversation and just kind of take off the shirt and tie and just kind of sit down with a polo shirt on and just have a conversation, build those relationships, as you mentioned in one of your books, peeling back those onions, the layers of the onion, Leigh, to get a real relationship, to have a better understanding of how we can improve each and every municipality within Cabarrus County.
All right, so if you're sucking up to get my vote because you read my book, it'll totally work. Nicely played. But I'll give you guys a different question here, and this is going to be probably the hairiest one we've had so far, because y'all are agreeing on everything, so you need to spice it up, apparently. This is coming from a local realtor who's very emotional about the question that she's asking because it has directly impacted her family. There are people leaving our county due to the schools being continually stuck in Plan C, and now we have this Plan B coming. Our kids are still not in the classroom. How can you, as a county commissioner, create better collaborative conversations between our school board and the county commission so that we can come to better decisions that will benefit families in all positions regarding the situation we're in? So it's kind of a current situation question, but also the bigger picture of collaboration between elected officials. And I'll start with, let's start with Steve on that one.
Well, I talk a lot about collaboration that we have created within the county, and we're very proud of the relationships that we formed with our school board and with our municipalities. We sit down together and meet on a regular basis, which is something that has not happened in the past. In regard to the specific situation that you're referring to, I am always very careful to make sure that we respect the role of the county commissioners versus the role of the school board. Our citizens elected folks to the school board to make those decisions and to represent them there. They elected our county commissioners to fulfill another role. So I am always very cautious. I'm certainly don't mind sharing my opinion with school board members and do that quite frequently. But when it comes to the governance questions, they have a very specific role to perform, as do we. So that is something that has to be covered in a school board candidate forum. And I encourage people to familiarize themselves with those candidates, just like they do with us, and vote for those people that are going to represent them the way they want to be represented and make those decisions on their behalf.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Continued collaboration with the Board of Education or school board, is the key, and but not overstepping your boundaries and allowing them to lead as our citizens will vote for them to lead. The individuals they would like to have lead for the Cabarrus County School Board. So yeah, I wouldn't get involved with that too much, and that's my quick answer.
Yeah, I think, the continued collaboration between the commissioners and the school board, that's very, very important. We can certainly offer some, I've talked to enough parents here lately that I can, voice their concerns to them. I've forwarded that information on to them so that they know, some of the struggles that people are having. But I think, that's really strictly a school board issue. Part of the problem, not part of the problem, but part of what folks need to understand is the state mandates a
Uh-oh. Barbara, you're frozen. Oh, man.
lot of restrictions on schools and what they
Hey,
can
you
and cannot
froze
do.
for a
In the
second.
governor's orders, there's some.
Okay.
Okay, am I back?
There you are. You're back.
Okay, whoops.
Yay, technology.
It works great sometimes, but it happens. I've had it happen on work calls, so I'm familiar with it. So I'm not sure where I left off, but it is a collaboration issue, and I don't think it's a commissioner issue. The state mandates certain criteria for our schools. They have to follow that pretty much to a letter. They can't really deviate from that. The current governor's orders, yes, he's given them specific, some guidelines to go with. And I think what they've done, whether we agree with it or not, they've looked at sister counties, they've looked at comparing data, they've watched the data. I mean, I've talked to several school board members that have daily watched the data and watched what was going on. I've forwarded concerns from parents to them. There's a lot of days care struggles going on right now. And we've got Kid Plus and stuff, but I mean, there's only so much that they can get away with on the state level, the state mandated guidelines, that it is a struggle for everybody. And I don't think that's something a commissioner wants to step in the middle of.
All right, thank you. So guys, we're at the end of our hour here. So you're going to have 1 minute each, and I'm going to run my trusty little clock here off now that we're over the text. Tell us the one reason you should be our representative as the citizens, taxpayers, residents of Cabarrus County to help our county move forward in a meaningful way for all citizens. And Kevin, you're going to go first.
Okay, so my goal is to represent every citizen equally and fairly and with a genuine passion, and this place I call home, and I would like for you to vote for me. I think I bring a certain value and gravitas to the Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners, and I think that coming with fresh perspectives. There's been 32 years since a Democrat has been on the County Board of Commissioners, and I think that the current board has done a fabulous job, but I definitely see that I could provide some value in having a foundation with my education. I think that it won't take as much for me to grab a hold on things and do my research and do my due diligence to pick up and where things are left off, if you will. So I think that I'll bring some value, fresh perspectives, and that's my. I'll stop there.
Well done. That was 1 minute and 42 seconds. So you were pretty close. All right, Barbara, let's see how close you are to
Hey.
your 1 minute. Go.
Thank you. I feel that, I ran, with kind of the slogan, Commissioner for the People. I've lived here going on 24 lives. I've lived through the closure of Philip Morris, the mills, the struggles that we have gone through. I have been in the community talking with people at the community level. And I think I can bring that perspective of, I know, that people know I'm an open book. I'm going to talk to them. I'm not going to shut them away. And I want to bring that forward. And I think that's something, I think being the people person or the commissioner for the people is going to be important. And I think that'll really mold, a good seat on the commission and really help the commission continue to do great work.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Steve.
Great. Well, I think that the 8 years that I've served on the board are approaching 8 years. 6 years as chairman has really prepared me for an additional term. Quite honestly, when I look at the things that we've accomplished and the things that we are in the process of, I can't imagine walking away from it. We're very close to making a serious impact, I think, on some of the mental health issues in the county. When, some of the projects that we have begun that I would like to see through, the learning curve is pretty steep. It's only after you're elected that you realize how very little you know. So I really look forward to having the opportunity to use the knowledge that I've gained and the experience that I've gained over the past 2 terms, and certainly will appreciate everyone's support on November 3rd. And I want to thank you for taking the time to put together this forum tonight and offer us an opportunity to talk together.
Well, I'm glad y'all said yes. And so thank you again on behalf of everybody who's tuned in and who will tune in when they get home from church and the ball field and work and wherever they are, for being willing to serve our county, for putting yourself in this unenviable position of having random strangers yell at you or love you, because it's never in the middle. So thank you. And I wish all of you the best in the election. Hey, friends, you got to vote. And if you want to know who to vote for, reach out to these folks. They are available to you. They will answer your questions. If you want to know who I'm voting for, that's by private message. I don't like to go out with a recommendation because it's up to you to do your research. So thanks for being here. Hey guys, I'll see you around the county, and thank you very much.
Thank you.